Hari Hari. Oh hey, Vaishnava Thakura, Doyara Sagara, Idase Karuna Kori. Oh hey, Vaishnava Thakur, Doyara Sagara, Idase Karuna Kori. Diapada Chaya, Shoro He Amai, Tomara Charana Dori. Jaya Bheka Dhoni, Jaya Dosha Shodhi, Jaya Guna Deho Dase. Jaya Satsanga, Deho He Amare, Boshe Shri Sangera Ashe. Ekaki Amar, Nahi Pai Bolo, Harinamo Sankirtane. Tumi Kripa Kori, Shraddha Bindu Diya, Dehon Krishna Nama Dhane. Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache. Amito Ganga, Krishna Krishna Boli, Dayatava Pache Pache. Oh hey, Vaishnava Thakur, Doyara Sagara, Idase Karuna Kori. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Ujjvala Gauravadeham Vilasita Niravari Bhava Videham Ujjvala Gauravadeham Vilasita Niravari Bhava Videham Ujjvala Gauravadeham Vilasita Niravadi Bhava Videham. Tribhuvana Pavana Krupaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanyam. Gadgadantara Bhava Vikaram Durjana Tarjana Nada Vishalam. Kavabaya Bhajana Karana Karanam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Arunam Bharadara Charukapolam Induvinindita Nakachaya Ruchiram. Jalpita Nijaguna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Vigalita Nayana Kamala Jaladharam Bhushana Navarasa Bhava Vikaram. Gati Yati Mantara Nritya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Chanchala Charu Charana Gati Ruchiram Manjira Ranjita Pada Juga Madhuram. Chandram Nindita Shitalavaranam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Jutakoti Dora Kamandalu Dandam Divya Kalevara Mundita Mundam. Durjana Kalmasha Kandana Dandam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Bhushana Buracha Alakavalitam Kampita Vindara Vararuchiram. Malaya Vira Chitta Ujjvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Ninditaruna Kamaladalanayanam Ajadulam Dikta Shibuja Yugalam Kalevara Kaishora Nartaka Vesham Samkara Manicha Shri Shachi Janayam Udgala Varana Gula Varakeham Vilasita Nirabari Baba Vijayam Tribhuvana Pavana Krupaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanyam Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaura Hari. Nice picture. Jai Jagannath. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaura Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All together. Vivavadi Shesha Loka Pravesha Jati Uto Jiva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Haya Jiva Nrsinga Vamana Madhusudana Rajanjanandana Shama Bhutana Gatana Kaitava Shatana Jaya Dasharati Rama Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bora Ravana Tatara Makana Taskara Gopi Jana Vasrahari Prajera Rakala Gopa Vrindavana Chittahari Vamshidhari Yogindra Vandana Shinananda Prajatana Bhayahari Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Vamshi Vihari Yashoda Nandana Tamdani Shudana Nikunjana Savilasi Kadambakarana Rasaparayana Vrindapi Vina Vilasi Ananda Vardana Premani Krishna Pulashara Jojakama Gopanganagana Chitta Vinodana Samasta Gunagana Dama Jamuna Jivana Kiriparayana Manasta Chandra Chakora Namshudarasa Gao Krishna Jata Rakho Vachana Manamora Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Go Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Chapter, okay. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna samrishto vipranam romaharshani pratipuja vachastesham pravaktum pachakrame yam pravajant sutuvacha yam pravajantam adupetam apetatrityam dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava Utreti tam mataya taravo benedus tam sarva bhuta hridayam munim anantosmi yasvanubhavam akila shruti saramekam adyamadipam atitirshatam tamondam samsarinam karunayaha paranapuyam tam vyasa sunum upayani gurum muninam Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye munayak sadhu prishtoham bhavadvirloka mangalam yakrita krishna samprashno yenatmasu prasidati savai pumsam paro dharmo Yato bhakti radhoksaje ahaitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati Vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojita janayat yashuvairagyam jnanam chayarahaitukam dharma shvanushtita pumsam vishvaksena kathasuya Notpadayed yadiratim Shrama eva hi kevalam Dharmasya hyapavargasya Nartortayo pakalpate Nartasya dharmaikantasya Kamolabhaya hi smita Kamasya nendriya pritir Labo jivete yavata Jivasya tattva jignasa Narto yasheha karmavi Vadanti tat tattva vidas Tattvam yajnanamabhayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti shabdate Tashchadatana munayo Jnana vairagya yuktaya Pashantyatmani chatmanam Bhakta shruta grihitaya Atapumbir dvija shreshta Varnashrama vibhagasha Svanustistasya dharmasya Samsarir haritoshanam Tasmade kena manasa Bhagavan satvatampati Shrotavya kirtitavyascha Dhyaya pujascha nityada Yad anudyasina yukta Karma granti nibandhanam Shindanti kovidastasya Kona kuryat kataratim Shushusho shradhalasya Vasudeva katarishi Syanmahat sevaya vibra Punyatirtha nishevana Shinvatam swakata Krishna Punya shravana kirtana Shrityam taksto hyabadrani vidunoti suritsatam Nashta prayushu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamaloba Dayashchaye Chaitaiter Anavidham Sitam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangas Sujayate Vidite Re Grantish Shichante Sarva Samshaya Shiante Chasya Karmani Krishna Eva Manishvare Ato Vai Kavayo Nityam Bhaktim Paramayamura Vasudeve Bhagavati Kurvantyatma Prasadanim Sattvam Rajas Tamayiti Prakriter Gunastaya Yukta Para Purusha Eka Ihasiddhate Stijadaye Hari Vrinshi Hareti Samya Shreyamsi Tatra Kalu Safatanur Niramsu Partiva Dharano Dumas Tasmadagnis Trayimayaha Tamasastu Rajas Tasmad Sattvam Brahma Darshanam Dejure Muniyotagre Bhagavantam Adhoksajam Sattvam Vishudham Shemaya Kalpante Yenutanniha Mumukshovo Gora Rupan Hidva Bhuta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta Bhajanti Hyana Suyava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitrir Bhuta Pajeshadin Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramaka Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriyaha Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapa Vasudeva Paro Dharmo Vasudeva Paragati Sa evedam sasarjagre Bhagavanatma Mayaya Sarasadrupaya chaso Gunamaya guno vibhu Taya vilashite shveshu Guneshu gunavaniva Antak pravishta abhati Vignanina vrajrimbrita Yata yavahito vanir Darushveka swayonishu Naneva bhati vishvatma Bhuteshu chatatapuman Asau gunamayir bhavir Bhuta sukshmendriyatmavi Swanirmiteshu nirvishto Bhukte bhuteshu tadgunam Bhavayat yesha satvena Lokan vaya lokabhavana Lila vataranurato Devatiryan Naradishu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsam Samhitayam Pratamaskande Naimishyo Prakyane Dvitiyo Jayaha Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Srimad Bhagavatam class. Later. The other program got canceled. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry that the message didn't go through. I think it's because Nirkula is not well. I told her she should have mentioned it. But who's the Pujari? You have to leave? You have to leave? We're very sorry. It was because there was another program happening that got canceled because of COVID. We'll make it up to you. Hare Krishna. Okay. Well then, personally let me know and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. If you personally let me know, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Hare Krishna. Just two knobs? Just two knobs come out? That's it? Gaur Premanande Haribo. Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giridhari Yashodananda Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodananda Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodananda Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanande, Taigora, Harigo, 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 Taigora, Harigo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam tato jayam udiraye. May I please have second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Ayurharati Vaipumsam. And also, please bring me the Madhya Lila that includes the pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first going to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. So the first verse we will discuss today is from Shukadeva Goswami, Ayurharati Vaipumsam. Ujjam ashtam shayanasao. Tasyarte yachano nita uttama shloka vartaya. So this verse is helpful for us to remember our goal in life. So the Ayur means the sun's rising, Harati Vaipumsam. With the sun's rising, Ashtan, Ujjan Ashtan Shayanasao. As the sun rises and sets, it's taking away our ayur, along with our birth in this world, thrown in free of charge, you get a lifespan. What that is known to the devas, but not so much to us. Ayur Harati, we also get our karma, which means whatever you asked for before, it comes delivered to you, just like when you go on the internet and you ask for something, it'll follow you for the rest of your life. And say you wanted to buy some socks, and now here they are again and again and again. So that all accumulates. It's in your profile online. And so, Ayur Harati Vaipumsam. As we're living each day, the sun rises and sets. Udyan Ashtam Chayan Asau. The sun is rising and setting. And every time it does, it's taking away 1 unit of time, the way we measure it, out of 365, getting us closer to the time when our ayur runs out. And that's true for all people, all the pumsams. So, ayur harati vaipumsam, udyan ashchan chayanasao. Tasyarte yat shano nita. However, if you use shano, your time, nita, you engage it in the service of the Lord, who's called Uttama Shloka. He's beautiful. He's glorified with beautiful prayers and hymns, Uttama Shloka Vardhaya. Then you're not wasting your time. You're actually making a credit. You're making a credit for yourself that can be used to go back home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, you could live your whole life endeavoring for some kind of material arrangement after which, when the end of your life comes, you'll have no capital whatsoever. Maybe in this world, but this world's capital is non-negotiable at the time of death. It's like that you have to leave behind. Everything you have to leave. And if you want some real capital, then invest it in your bhajan and invest it in your service. And then you can develop this foundation through which when we leave the world, or leave this body, that is, then leave our world, more like, we may not leave the world of the phenomenal world, but we will leave this body. But when we leave it, then we have capital. So the process for leaving the world is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, Karmana Daiva Netrena, Jantor Deho Papatye, Striyam Pravishta Udaram, Pumso Reta Kanashraya. So the little particle of the soul gets placed within the womb of a woman, and then it develops a little body. And then the body comes out into the world again. And we're forced again and again to do that. And how is it decided where we'll take our birth and what kind of work we're going to do, we're going to be offered? It's because of the devas. They have a record of exactly what our activities are. They're empowered to do that. So we get exactly what we deserve in our next life. Shotram, chakshush, sparshanam cha, rasanam granam eva cha, atishtayam manaschayam, vishayan upasevate. All of these senses that we acquire in the next life are perfectly fitted for the kind of work that we desired and that we deserve. And then we also get an ayu, lifespan, as I said before. And how's that decided? Not by us, but by higher authority called Daiva, and decides. So Narada Muni says that Dasyaiva hetu prayate kovido na labite yad brahmatam upareda ta labyate dukkha varanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabira ramhasa. Don't waste your time at running after the kinds of things that are going to come to you automatically. What will come to you automatically? Well, certainly certain kinds of inconveniences, in case you haven't noticed. Even though we try to avoid them, I know I do. I figured it out. It's the one thing I don't like in life, especially, and that's inconvenience. I hate being inconvenienced. But it comes automatically. It's just, there it is again. I'm inconvenienced. So I had to change my mindset. And there's a way that it comes automatically, and similarly, conveniences come without us asking either. They just show up. And this is something Narada mentions. In the scheme of the material world, there's a way in which convenience and inconvenience is already lined up for us according to our previous activities. So he says, don't utilize your valuable time, kalena sarvatra gopira ramasa, chasing after being comfortable, convenient, being inconvenienced, or trying to avoid inconvenience. Rather, he says, do your bhajan. Try to increase your taste for serving Krishna, especially by hearing and chanting, shravanam, kirtanam, vishnu smaranam, pada sevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakyam, dasyam, atmanivedanam. I blew it. Shravanam, kirtanam, vishnu smaranam, pada sevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakyam, atmanivedanam. That time it worked. Iti pumsar pita vishnu bhaktischin navilakshana kriyata bhagavatyada tan nama uttamam. I missed a word. Somebody look it up, please. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj says we should really be investing in. This is very clear. There's 9 items of devotional service. And we know from singing the song regularly, not that regularly, but semi-regularly, that there are various iconic devotees who attain perfection by performing at least one of the processes of devotional service mentioned. One of them is hearing, chanting, then remembering, worshiping the lotus feet of the Lord, then archanam, doing puja, then offering prayers, become a servant, becoming a friend, surrendering everything. Iconic devotees are mentioned. That's a weird passive statement, but Srimad Bhagavatam lists these various devotees who attain perfection either doing one of these processes or all of them. But throughout the Shastra, it's specifically mentioned that one should be absorbed in Shravanam Kirtanam, where Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Paricha Nishnatam Brahman Upashramashrayam. In the process of describing the miseries of the material world, one of the Yogendras then says, Tasmad, therefore, you should approach somebody who has heard sufficiently. Shabde Paricha Nishnatam. They're fixed in the Shastra. They've taken a dip in the ocean of spiritual wisdom in the Shastra, and the Shruti, and the Smriti. And then if one has heard sufficiently, then one can speak about Krishna. And by using especially these senses, the hearing and the speaking senses, then one purifies all of one's senses. Sarvo parivanir muktam tapratvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhakti uchate. There's a way in which when we use our senses in the service of Krishna, instead of in the service of our own interests, then our senses become purified. And when we have purified senses, then we start to taste the nectar of devotional service. It's a higher taste than tasting sense gratification. There's an interim period that's very challenging. This is a period during which we've already understood that my real interest is to hear and chant, and I want to dedicate my life to it. I have dedicated my life to it, but there's also competing interests in my life, competing tastes. There are tastes that still remain in my mind and heart. And this period is called Anartha Nivriti. It's a time in which, hey, Devavrata Haribol. Let's welcome Devavrata back to ISV. Coming off a traveling Sankirtan? Where else, right? It's like when Narada Muni shows up. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's important. So there's an interim period, Anartha Nivriti, when we can expect that although I have a taste, there's a way that I'll be challenged by material desires. Krishna helps us. I may not be able to remember this verse, but look it up. Satyam, what is it? Dishati artito nrinam, naivartito yat punar artito yata, swayam vidate, bhagavan anishvaram. Did you look it up? Satyam dishati artito nrinam, naivartito yat punar artito yata, Soyam vidate bhajanam anichatam icha pitanam nijapada palavam. I almost have it. See, you're taking a long time just to try to help me redeem myself here. Okay, Shastra Sara, this is what you're on earth for. Please tell us what it is. 5:19:27. So this describes an interim period where Krishna helps us along. Anyone want to know how Krishna helps us along a little bit? Okay, 3 people. Everyone else close your ears. 5:19:27 says, Satyam dishatyartitam artito nranam, naivartado yat punar artita yata, swayam vidate bhajatam anichatam, ichapidanam, nijapada palavam. Now, isn't that beautiful? Let's go for word from the backwards forward. That's easier, because we're in opposite world now. Nijapada palavam, his lotus feet. Whose lotus feet? So there's a beautiful supreme source to everything. He's all attractive. His name's Krishna. He has beautiful lotus feet. Lucky for us. So then, icha pidanam, which covers all desirable things. So what this means is that I have a lot of ideas for engaging in the world. Any of you have any? Like ideas? There are desirable things in the world. If I could just have this, then ... I'd be happy. Doesn't really work out. But we don't know that so much. I mean, I don't know that. You guys do. Icha pidanam. So it covers the icha, those desires that I have, means icha, because we're born into the world with these desires. Where does it say it in Bhagavad Gita? Starts with the word icha. 20 points, but okay. Go ahead. Icha dvesha sumutena dvandva mohena parata. Sarvabhutanis samoham sarge yanti parantapa. Krishna says in the 7th chapter of the Gita that we're born with this momentum. Who can say a verse from the 1st canto, 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam that indicates that we're born into this world with momentum? I'll give you a clue. It's the penultimate verse. And you just recited it. What does penultimate mean? That should give it away. How many verses are there in 1, 2, 34? Then which verse is it if it's the penultimate? 33. Second to the last, penultimate. So then the verse is, without any extra help, Asav Gunamayir Bhavera, Bhuta Sukshmendriyapambi, Svaniramitation Nirvishto, Bhunte Putishu Tadgunan. There's a way that Super Soul, Shukshma, in a very subtle way, reminds us of what our intentions were. Isn't that nice? He wants to give us full freedom to work it all out. So we have this icha. I have a desire for something in this world. But pidanam, Krishna also, not only if he reminds the living entity, but for those who take to devotional service, he does something very special. He helps to frustrate our desires. Yay! Let's say yay to frustration. Yay! Frustration. We like it so much. Icha pidanam means he covers all desirable things. How does he cover it? Nijapada palavam, with his own lotus feet. So the sense there that he's so nice, his name's nice, his deity's nice, his prasadam's nice, his devotees are nice, everything nice. Name 3 more nice things. Did I take them all? I'm sorry. Did I take them all? Huh? The Dham is very nice. You go to the Dham and you feel like you're in the right place at the right time. Okay, then? Sadhusanga retreat is nice. And then one more? His name. Okay. I said that, but we can say it twice. Okay. Icha pidanam nija pada palavam. There's another verse that starts off with this idea, which is yet pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta. That the bhaktas have an advantage. What's their advantage? Yet pada palavam. Yet pada. That vilasa, there's a vilas, there's an enjoyment you get from engaging in devotional service with Krishna. And it mentions his beautiful lotus feet again. Yet pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta. So the bhaktas have this natural enjoyment they get from going into the association of devotees, having kirtan, there's music, there's raga. That's nice. We need that, otherwise we'll die. Don't try to live without music. Life doesn't make sense. Then you have to have food, right? We can't just eat unless you're Raghunath Das Goswami. You have to have something nice. Name 3 nice preparations. Gulab jamun, everyone goes to the sweets. Okay, gulab jamun. Kachori is very nice.
Samosa.
Yeah, everyone wants to get in on this one because yeah, we want to enjoy. And that's the real enjoyment. If you enjoy prasadam and you enjoy music, and what about dancing? Anybody like to dance? Yay. So even if you can't dance, in your heart you can dance. And this is the desire of everyone. So you get that. Yet pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta. That's all there in Krishna's lotus feet. So how does he cover all the nasty things that I think that make me happy? Icha pidanam nijapada palavam. He covers it with his own process. He says, here, little jiva, give you a little something better. How about it, little fellow? Why don't you try this instead? Okay, so then it says, starting from the top, Satyam Dishyati means that he offers artidam, the objects that we pray for. So what if I pray for stupid stuff? Is that possible, to pray for something stupid? Okay, you pray for stupid stuff. Artidam, so that's the artidam, the thing you're praying for is like, oh, if only I could have a little clay pot with a flower on it. Artita, I'm praying for that. Nrinam, human beings do this stuff all the time. Not Eva, indeed, Artada, the bestower of benedictions. So he's the bestower of benedictions. He's giving them, but when little Jiva, who's started to practice devotional service, asked for these puna again and again in Artida, he makes demands for benedictions, then Krishna gets involved personally. Swayam vidate bhajatam, because bhajatam means those who are engaged in devotional service. So Krishna will then make an arrangement. So, yeah, I'll give you what you want, but in such a way that you won't want it anymore. Do you like that? Yes. Yeah, it's good. So this came up at I believe it came up at one of the Bhagavatam classes at the Sadhu Sangha retreat. Yeah, Jayadvaita Maharaj gave class the last day. And somebody asked, does it happen automatically or do we have to do anything? What do you think? So you just let Krishna do it all? No, seriously, what's your opinion? I'm curious. Yes, Prabhu? If anybody has to get up to get a microphone, we've failed in our...
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
So, yeah, this was a question asked whether we are chanting Hare Krishna, but still the material attachments do not go away. So Maharaj answered, and that is my understanding also, that one has to work on it. One has to be ready to receive it. So it works both ways. One chants Hare Krishna and one tries to give up the material attachment at the same time. One has to cooperate.
You have to cooperate.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you could see right and wrong choice right before your eyes? And what gave you the strength or lack of strength? What was it that allowed you to do the right thing? First of all, let's start with that. How did you feel if you knew the two options? I'm not talking about it has to be a huge major thing, but just even small things during your day, and you notice, I could do this, which is spiritually valuable, and I know deep inside it'll give me a taste, and I'll feel aligned, and there's this that's like eating, I don't know, Captain Crunch cereal. Do they still have that? They do? Good for the captain. Okay, so you need all the sugar you need to keep going. So you have these two choices, and then you choose the right thing. How do you feel? Bliss? Yes, Prabhu?
In the beginning it is
I'm
tough.
asking you because I wouldn't know. Okay, go ahead.
In the beginning it is tough. It feels tough. But later on it feels great.
Okay. So in the beginning it feels like a tough choice. Sometimes it feels immediately, as soon as you make the choice, it seems like it's hard. Should I sit and read Bhagavad Gita or look at TikTok? That's funny, right? TikTok. So then you get this choice, and if you look at if you read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you feel immediately enter into the realm where you feel like, oh, this is naturally satisfying. If you go the other way, then you get the empty calories and maybe get a sugar crash later in your brain. So there is a juncture, which is quite interesting, where we can notice our free choice. And then there's a way in which also we can help ourselves by putting ourselves in environments where we're more likely to make good choices. This is sadhu sangha. If we get good association, at least we can do that. Even if we feel like we're the most fallen and we make bad choices, if we put ourselves in good association, then by that association, gradually we can be persuaded or induced to make better choices. And then we get more strength from sadhu sangha. I was at sadhu sangha recently. It was an event in Utah. Beautiful mountains. And I got to sit with one of my old friends, a godbrother named Vishnu Gada. He's a stalwart. And I was just sitting next to him in japa. I just kept noticing he kept sitting straighter. Every time, like, his back would go down a little bit, he'd sit back up again and sit straight. And he just sat there and chanted. We sit there and chant our whole 16 rounds together. And afterwards I felt, yeah, just by sitting next to this sadhu, I feel stronger now. When I came home happy, because I thought, I sat with Vishnu Gada. And now I feel improved. And this is one of the ways that we can close that gap and have a better life, to making better decisions. And what if you sit with somebody who's not sense controlled, or you spend a little time with somebody not sense controlled? What's likely to happen? What do you think? Generally, there's agitation in the mind. Yeah, very generally. When you spend time with people who are who have optimism for material sense enjoyment and are after it, then we also develop a little sense of optimism. Yeah, well, isn't it just at least a little good idea? Don't we have to have like a little sense of gratification to be happy in life? And that's what we get by association with those who have that kind of optimism for sense enjoyment in the material world. So if we can have good association, and also if somehow or other we can drag ourselves in front of transcendental sound vibration. And this is an important aspect of getting this spiritual strength, which is to make sure that there are items around you and channels that you can open easily so that you can hear transcendental sound vibration. Make the choices easier. This is true also in when people are trying to make good food choices. Did you know this? If you put, well, there's good food and bad food. Can we get an agreement on that? Nutritious and non-nutritious? Okay, let's name something on the non-nutritious side. Captain Crunch cereal, and on the other side, something. No, that's on the other side. Cheerios. They're highly processed. Don't eat them. What? An apple. Okay, an apple. An apple that we offered to Krishna. Okay, Kitri. Avocado. I'm going with avocado. I gravitate towards it. Okay, so Captain Crunch or an avocado. And now I forgot where I was going with this. But food choices. So if you have avocados and you set them out and they ripen at the right time and you have a picture where you're going to offer them, everything's all lined up, right? Then you might eat an avocado, which is an excellent idea, by the way, to eat an avocado. Captain Crunch cereal, if that's what's sitting out, box is open, and, it's within arm's reach. Your hand might just get an idea of its own and go in the box and pull out Captain Crunch. Next thing you know, you're eating empty calories. So those who are wise, they would put the Captain Crunch in another continent, put it on a boat, send it off into the ocean somewhere. Maybe the fish would like it. And make sure it's not available. Avocados? Yeah, always available. So we do ourselves a favor when we're in our right mind to organize our environment for hearing and chanting. So we put everything in order so that we can easily reach it and that the mind doesn't make bad choices. That's what an ashrama is. An ashrama is a place where everything's lined up so that you can hear and chant properly and not get interrupted by stupid people doing stupid stuff. No stupid people allowed in the ashrama. Isn't it? Yes, okay. So this verse shows how kind Krishna is. Once you start your bhajan and you're calling out, Krishna, please help me, then he helps you. He helps us. And he says, yes, I'll give you what you're asking for, but I'll put it in the light of the things that you feel weigh you down, that actually oppress you, and you'll not desire them anymore. And at the same time, I'll give you a taste for devotional service so that you can take it up. So let's discuss these points just for a couple of minutes. We're basing this on the verse Ayur Harati Vaipumsam, that every day the rising Udyan Ashtan Chayanasau, every day the sun rises and sets and it takes away part of our life, except, there's an exception here, the rite means the exception, tasyarte yatshano nita, if you're using your time for worshiping Krishna, uttama shloka vartaya, then you're getting a stock of spiritual wealth. It's piling up. Shall we have discussion? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So I was thinking from the morning japa class and this one that how everyone is trying to become a one-stop shop solution. I mean, in terms of high-tech companies are trying to become one-stop shop solution so that they can sell everything. But what we are doing is reducing our lifespan. But here it's mentioned that how if we take shelter of Krishna, or if we understand the holy name is the ultimate solution, then our life will become blissful. So I'm just thinking on those lines.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you for bringing that point up. And the one-stop shopping idea, of course, Amazon Prime's pretty close. We have this sense, we want everything and we want it now, or as soon as I have the desire, let it come. That's a mystic power. Kings didn't have that centuries ago. It's like, I would like to have a, what? Whatever it is, 2 seconds later it's on its way. Somebody, here it is. That's pretty mystical. But what actual happiness looks like is if I feel satisfied with Krishna's lotus feet. And an example of that would be Srimad Bhagavatam. If we feel satisfied, like if you see a place where you have Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, Bhagavad Gita, you can put that there. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you have a sufficient place to sit. Let's say you like sitting on the ground, so there's a mat there. And you see the bookshelf, it's got the Bhagavatams, and it's got a little mat, it's clean, and then it's kind of off the beaten path, so no one's going to bother you there. And then you think, that's my spot. That's where I want to sit, and I don't care, I don't need anything else. If you can see that scene and think, I don't need anything else, and your bead bag, then you're self-sufficient and you'll be happy. Then you're getting happiness from Krishna's lotus feet because you think, I just want to hear the Bhagavatam in peace and not be bothered by anything right now. Then we're happy and satisfied. And this is one-stop shopping when we have this sense. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika bhutir ekeha kurunandana bahushaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. If you're able to be one-minded and think that your attention is one-pointed, I know this formula. If I'm able to just fully concentrate on Krishna by hearing about him from the Bhagavatam and hearing his holy name, then I'll be completely happy and satisfied. You already know that. If you know that, you're the wealthiest person in the world. And if you can practice it, then you're in the elite, highest percentile of the most fortunate people in the world. And on the other side, Bahu Shakahi Anantascha. It's unlimited how many other places the mind will want to go. If you don't have that shelter of knowing that I can be satisfied by hearing and chanting, then the mind will want to go to everywhere. And nothing's ever going to be enough. Because if you fly into San Francisco, there's already signs saying you should go to Italy. And once you go to Italy, it says you got to go to Greece. And from Greece, you should go to Russia. And all around the universe, Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev, until one becomes fortunate by meeting somebody who's one-pointed and says, no, here's the one place where you'll be happy. Thank you, Prabhu. Devavrata.
So this shloka, I was thinking of when I was going to India in January. I had an early flight in Los Angeles flying to New York. And that flight is such that if you leave early in the morning, you arrive at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So practically the whole day's been wasted. I woke up, I took off when the sun was rising. I was on a 5-hour flight and the sun was setting in New York when I got there. So like my perception of time was like really, really interesting. And so as I was flying into New York, I saw the sun setting, and then I was flying in and I saw like all the people, and I said, there's so many people going all over the place, working so hard, but for what purpose? And so I started to think, okay, what is the ultimate thing to do with my time? And so I opened up a Srila Prabhupada shloka book, and I was just going through different shlokas, and I found this shloka, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Preme Teno Puna Mukhya Anga. At the root of devotional service is Sadhu Sangha. And I said, that's the reason why I'm going to India, that's the reason why I should do anything, is to find good association, to water that root, and also ultimately receive that seed and nourish it. Because there's so many things to be doing. The sun is setting and sun is rising, but time is relative ultimately. So with what I'm able to perceive, I should utilize that time to take advantage of Sadhu Sangha.
Well done. This is one pointed attention in devotional service. Try to know where the real profit lies, and one way or another be there. As Rupa Goswami mentions, Krishna Bhakti Ras Bhavito Mati Kriyatam Yadi Kritopi Labhyate Tatalolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janmakoti Sukratirna Labhyate. That there's one price to pay for devotional service, and that's your greed to have it. If you're very desirous of it, that's your ticket. And then he says, if it's available somewhere, then you should go there immediately. Don't hesitate and think, I'll get to this later. But try to grab it as soon as you can, go to that place and take it. And so if you know that it's available by Sadhu Sangha, then try to be there and be in the association of devotees. Okay, a couple more points. Then I'm going to read the...
Recording in progress.
Yes. Did you raise your hand? Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So I like the point when you mentioned that by making like when you're not capable to make the right choice at the moment, you just put yourself in the right association, and that is like how we express our free will. Like that's the main our strength in this, just to make the right choice. And at the same time, when you mentioned that when it's not like proper association, that how might this so quickly just like thinking, oh, it's okay, it's just nothing, I'm not breaking any vows or anything. I just like go a little bit like have some sense enjoyment, just watch something or do something. But then you feel that it becomes this thought that becomes like yours, and you think that it's you, it's just you're making this choice. But then if you go like track it to the beginning, you understand that's because of this association. You got these ideas. It's not yours, actually.
Right. That's a good point. Nice observation. And I've thought of it in this way before. If I don't like what I'm being subjected to, so I think, how am I being subjected to this? Like, I'm subjecting myself to it. I'm putting myself in front of material sound vibration, and therefore it repeats on me. Like you ate it, now you have to digest it. And how do you like that? Not very much. So what is the remedy for that? Don't subject myself to that. Why? What's the point? It's status quo. There's a status quo in the material world, and everyone thinks they have to follow it. Devamrita Swami mentions, by the way, he's coming in today. Haribol. He calls it mass consensual trance. This is a turn of phrase. Everyone agrees to just like, let's just stay absorbed in the distraction of the material world, and we won't mention anything about self-realization or especially God. That's taboo. And we'll stay in this together. I'll agree if you agree also, and we'll just try to stay in the material world. That's the material association. So it's okay. It's just the way it is. And the Shastra comes and says, that's not the way it is. Actually, that's the situation of the living entity in a disadvantaged situation. Okay, a couple more points. Yes, Radhakripa Prabhu, and then Shastra Sar, Prada.
Guru Maharaj, these previous impressions in our mind, especially when grew up, I used to listen so many folk songs, local songs, movie songs. And even right now, if you hear even one line or slight music, I can recollect like this. I just feel terrible sometimes because those things just has entered into my head, hasn't disappeared. But I hope like now as we associate and hear the mantra or the sadhu sangha, and when we hear the Krishna Katha or the people sing the Hare Krishna bhajana, hoping that now overpower, that become now more sustained in my mind, because it's so whatever we absorb, whatever we have done, even unknowingly, it sticks. It's pretty hard to get out of it. So I just wanted to hope. I'm hopeful that
So you're kind of making a prayer. Please let it.
Yes, Maharaj.
These are very important points, and there's a couple of thoughts that I'd like to offer. One is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Rath Yatra sang a cinema song. Now, if anybody did it nowadays, especially some Swami comes up and picks up the microphone, and started singing a cinema song, everyone's like, what happened to the Maharaj? But the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially as Rupa Goswami, he heard it and he goes, oh, I know why he's singing this. This is what it means, actually. It was a popular song at the time. It was on the radio. And everyone was like, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a completely different conception of it. He was thinking of Radha and Krishna. And so one point is that just we can't block everything out, but if we can consider it in relationship to Krishna, Ratirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yatapaso yatatama. Krishna said this to Brahma in a very nice conversation they had that ended with them shaking hands. And I think my theory is they did this at the end. Krishna's like, good luck, Brahma. Boom. And so they were talking, and Krishna says, anything you see in this world, it's not connected to me, that's Maya. Because everything's connected to me. So if you hear a song and it won't go out of your head, then just connect it to Krishna. Like I remember a few songs that I had connected because I can't remember where I heard it, but there was a song, I was in some town, maybe it was in England or somewhere, I was doing traveling Sankirtan, and there was a song on the radio called Never Surrender. It was like I think it was a punk band. Like, never surrender. And I was thinking, no, Sarvadharma Parityaja. I have the antidote to that one. It's like, that's the anthem of the conditioned soul. And I just thought of a little conditioned soul going, never surrender. And then there was Diana Ross and the Supremes, you are everything, and everything is you. And I was thinking, that's right out of the Bhagavad Gita. That the expression is the heart-rending. It's like, oh, I miss my little schmoopy somewhere, But actually, that's, when we look at the whole scheme of the material world through the eyes of Bhagavatam, we go like, that's kind of ridiculous. But we do have that connection to Krishna. You are everything and everything is you. And there's lots of them. And ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough. I can sing a lot of these things. But to keep me from you. And that's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was yearning. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no obstacle that can keep me away. So remember all these things in relation to Krishna. Poetry, ancient poetry, Ozymandias, the poem by Shelley. There's lots of Shakespeare talking about the impetus of love. And if you take those and you just apply them to Krishna consciousness, you'll see that actually they're meant for Krishna ultimately. He's Uttama Shloka Vartaya. all these expressions are ultimately meant for Krishna. Otherwise, they just vaporize and they don't really mean that much. So we can reconnect them. And then the other point is that the bhajans we do have from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, like Nachirar Marman, Nachirar Marman, that it kind of, it gets in you. And those are a replacement. We can actually become attached to all those bhajans. Like I heard so many bhajans when I first joined Krishna Conscious Movement by Chutananda Maharaj. I remember I went on traveling Sankirtan with Banabhatta Prabhu. We had a brand new van. It had the highest tech in it, which was a tape player that would turn itself around. That was a big deal, kids. You put in the tape, there was these things called cassettes. And you'd put it in the player. And our player in the van, somebody had outfitted it for us for traveling. You put it in there, and the tape would go all the way to the end, and then it would turn itself around and play the other side. Haribol. We were like leaning out the windows like, we got a tape player. But we went on our traveling Sankirtan, we stopped in New Dwarka, and we picked up the latest tapes of bhajans. And I can still remember all those, the Delhi Pandal Kirtans, and there was a Radhe Sham, Sham, Sham. We listened to them over and over and over again. And pretty soon, that's the prominent song. So we can do both things. There's no vibration that we already have in us that can't be overwritten, and it can't be considered in the light of Krishna consciousness one way or another. And then when we fill up with the transcendental vibration, we have so many experiences. Like, haven't you all had a time when you were listening to a kirtan or a bhajan and you just went crazy because it was so nice? I had one of those experiences over the weekend when Kadambakananda Maharaj was singing. Because, I don't know if you saw, he made an announcement that he's ill and in the game, but I knew about it a long time ago because he told me we're working in New York and I couldn't tell anybody. But when I saw him on stage there, I just said, I want to be in Maharaj's kirtan. And, the way he sings, I talked to him after and he was like, I can't help it. That's the way I am. I can't help it. And so, when he started singing like that, I couldn't stop dancing in the kirtan. And that leaves an impression. It's a major hit to all those other jingles and Captain Crunch cereal songs and all that stuff that's floating around. It kind of bashes them out of the way. Have you ever had that experience where you're in a kirtan and it's so good it drives you nuts and then you can't stop thinking about it? I hear Ramananda Prabhu walking around all day long. He's always, like whatever the latest tune is, he'll be singing it in the back room somewhere. Have you heard him? He can't get him out of his head. Have you ever had that happen in a kirtan somewhere or a bhajan where you just couldn't stop thinking about it? Which one? The China tune. Couldn't get the China tune out of your head? Anybody else? Yes? Experiences for 500.
This was, I think, 7 years ago, 5-6 years ago maybe. We were returning from Los Angeles to ISV after visiting our Guru Maharaj in LA. It was very late at night. We started around 9:30 p.m. or something because the program went late and things like that. So we were driving in the car with Haldar Rupa Prabhu and Kumari Lila and everybody. And we put Achyuta Gopi's Kirtan, Radhe Govinda, and the entire 5 hours we were just singing and singing the same kirtan. And then by the time we reached home, we didn't want to stop. And even it was already 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And then we opened the car door when we got off and everybody's singing loudly. And we felt that the same kirtan again and again, but it just got into our head and we couldn't stop. So that was one experience.
Haribo. You were in the car. Okay, verification.
So the thing was, all the drivers were extremely sleepy. So, and we were thinking, like, should we stop? Should we, take a hotel or something? So Haldar Prabhu said that I have a formula. And he said that let's start Achyuta Gopi's Kirtan. We all will be able to drive through. So after that, whenever we feel something, tired, we just play her Kirtan. And we saw in Sadhu Sangha.
And that's a samskar, right? It's a thing, Prabhu. Devavrata.
When we were on Parikrama on Govardhan with Havi Prabhu just recently, when we arrived at Uddhavakund, he stopped you and he said, listen, and then you pulled out your phone and you recorded the kirtan for him. And when I saw you guys doing that, I did that too. So I pulled it out and I listened to that kirtan over and over. It brings me right back to Uddhavakund, and it left such a profound impact. Within the moment, I wouldn't have realized it, but because Havi Prabhu pointed it out and then I was able to tune into it, it was a really sweet tune. And I was just thinking it's such a nice thing to do going around Vrindavan just with a...
It is, yeah. Actually, on that day, we picked up a few tunes. First, we went up to the Shringa temple, Prahlad Shringa temple. It's one of my favorite places in all the dhams. You go up, it's at the tail of Govardhan Hill. You have to walk up steps. So Indradyumna Maharaj was there. Somehow or other, we have this uncanny way of meeting there, kind of just serendipitously. And this time he was there. He had helped pay for a facade for the temple because it's not been upgraded in a long time, and there were at least 100 devotees up in that little courtyard up there, and Govinda Maharaj was singing a kirtan, and just the otherworldly atmosphere, and then the kirtan in the background that stuck. I recorded it, and then we went down to Uddhavakund. Same thing happened, and later that day I was in Lowy Bazaar, and across the street from where I was buying some cloth, I heard some tape going over and over again. I recorded that too. And then we have all those. And then it's so true that if you have those and you repeat them again and again, you go back to that place where you were when you picked it up and the feeling of it. That's how powerful the sound vibration is. Radhakripa Prabhu.
Guru Maharaj, my cousin back in India, she shared me a YouTube link of Habi Prabhu, and she shared that accidentally she clicked that link, and she said she started crying by hearing. She said, this is something you must listen. She was telling me, and I was telling, why. She felt like so, she said half an hour that the mantra was there, but she said she felt so engrossed and so deeply touched the voice, so deep, she said she started crying. She said, you must watch that. So how powerful the impression and the devotees, those who sing with love, it has to be someone who is probably new to the Krishna consciousness. So I just thought to share.
Yeah, so we want to give ourselves to that feeling of just being carried away. We want to be carried away by the senses, actually. It's sense gratification carries us in the wrong way. But if we can align ourselves with spiritual sense gratification, then we can give into that. We can give into the kirtan, the bhajan. We can give into the prasadam and all the other types of spiritual stimuli. And if we do that, and we become used to that, and that becomes our lifestyle, that's bhakti. And then we're happy all the time. What do you think? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to tell a little story. Yes.
Prabhu, one more point from the verse was the part where you mentioned that how we desire for stupid things in this world, and how Krishna he just covers all of those with his lotus feet. I was just thinking how a child wants a candy, a lollipop, and all those things, and the mother very expertly brings nice kachori or something that is offered to Supreme Lord. I was thinking through many, many millions of lifetimes we have been asking and asking and asking all sorts of things to Krishna, and then somehow Krishna brings his holy name to us and covers everything else. So it's so nice.
Yes. In fact, there's a paraphrase of the verse we looked at, Satyam Dishati Artito Artito Nirnam, that's in Bengali. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the way it's described is Krishna saying that this person, I've given him devotional service, but they don't, they're asking for material benedictions. Then Krishna says, this person is a fool, but I'm not a fool. And I know what's good for him. So I will give something else, or I'll give it in such a way. So Krishna is saying, I know this person's a fool. I've given the best thing, and they won't take it. So now I'm gonna make it so they don't want the other thing. And that's really special mercy we can remember if we get frustrated by trying to go the other way. It's if we're bored with material life or we get frustrated with it, we could take that as Krishna's mercy. And fortunately, we have the replacement, which is, it's helpful if we make sure that we touch base with it every day and we try to get that sense of absorption in it so that it becomes the norm rather than the exception. Om Tat Sat. Okay, there's a couple more points. And these are from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is everybody okay? Yes. Okay. There's a story. And the story starts off in Madhya 6:1 by saying, the author says, I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Gaurachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who converted the hard-hearted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the reservoir of all bad logic, into a great devotee. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can convert people by the way he interacts with them, from hard-hearted into soft-hearted devotees. Then he says, all glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. In ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went from Ataranala, to the temple of Jagannath. After seeing Lord Jagannath, he became very restless due to love of God. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went swiftly to embrace Lord Jagannath, but when he entered the temple, he was so overwhelmed with love of Godhead that he fainted to the floor. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya happened to see him. When the watchman threatened to beat the Lord, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately forbade him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very surprised to see the personal beauty of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as well as transcendental transformations wrought on his body due to love of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained unconscious for a long time. Meanwhile, the time for offering prasadam to Lord Jagannath came, and the Bhattacharya tried to think of a remedy. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unconscious, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, with the help of the watchman and some disciples, carried him to his home and laid him down in a very sanctified room. Purport: at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya lived on the southern side of the Jagannath temple. His home was practically on the beach and was known as Markandeya Sarastata. At present, it is used as the monastery of Gangamata. Examining the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma saw that his abdomen was not moving and that he was not breathing. Seeing his condition, the Bhattacharya became very anxious. The Bhattacharya then took a fine cotton swab and put it before the Lord's nostrils. When he saw the cotton move very slightly, he became hopeful. Sitting beside Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he thought, this is a transcendental ecstatic transformation brought about by love of Krishna. Upon seeing the sign of Sudipta Sattvika, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could immediately understand the transcendental ecstatic transformation in the body of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such a sign takes place only in the bodies of eternally liberated devotees. Purport: the word Sudipta Sattvika is explained in the following way by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu mentions 8 kinds of transcendental transformations in the bodies of advanced devotees. These are sometimes checked by the devotee, and there are 2 stages of such checking, technically known as Dhumayita and Jwalita. The Dhumayita, smoking stage, is exhibited when only 1 or 2 transformations are slightly present, and it is possible to conceal them. When more than 2 or 3 transcendental transformations are manifest, it is still possible to conceal them, although with great difficulty. That stage is called Jwalita, lighted. When 4 or 5 symptoms are exhibited, the Deepta, blazing stage, has been reached. When 5, 6, or all 8 symptoms are simultaneously manifest, that position is called Udipta, inflamed. And when all 8 symptoms are multiplied 1,000 times and all visible at once, the devotee is in the Sudipta, intensely inflamed stage. Nitya Siddha Bhakta indicates the eternally liberated associates of the Lord. Such devotees enjoy the company of the Lord in 4 relationships as servant, friend, parent, and conjugal lover. So the Lord was in that extreme stage of ecstasy, and Sarvabhauma could see it. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya considered the uncommon ecstatic symptoms of Adiruddha Bhava are appearing in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is very wonderful. How are they possible in the body of a human being? Adiruddha Bhava, or Adiruddha Mahabhava, is explained by Srila Rupa Goswami as Ujjvala Nilamani. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes Rupa Goswami as follows: the loving propensity of the Ashraya devotee toward the Vishaya Lord becomes so ecstatic that even after enjoying the company of the beloved, the devotee feels that his enjoyment is insufficient. At such a time, the lover sees the beloved in different ways. Such a development of ecstasy is called anurag. Anuragto habehe. When anurag reaches its highest limit and becomes perceivable in the body, it is called bhava. When the bodily symptoms are not very distinct, however, the emotional state is still called anurag, not bhava. When bhava ecstasy is intensified, it is called mahabhava. The symptoms of mahabhava are visible only in the bodies of eternal associates like the gopis. So the scene is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had just taken sannyas recently, and he was on his way to Jagannath Puri. And on his way there, he had stopped in a special place, and he had entrusted his danda to Nityananda Prabhu. And while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was absent for a few minutes, Nityananda Prabhu broke his danda in 3 places. You really got to work hard at that to break a danda. And then he threw it into the river, into the Nadi river. So it's called Bangananga Nadi, the place where the broken danda was thrown. And that's a sacred place that we visit in Jagannath Puri sometimes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally became angry at Nityananda Prabhu, although they're the same person. And internally he was happy because Nityananda Prabhu was showing that actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not dependent on varnashrama like sannyas. Like, what are you doing? And externally Mahaprabhu was following all these social conventions, and therefore he feigned anger at Nityananda, and then he said, you guys are disturbing my whole program, so you can stay here, you can go behind me or in front of me, but you can't come with me. So Mahaprabhu went off by himself, and the devotees followed him. So he got to Jagannath Puri, he saw the deity in the temple. Beautiful sannyasi, 24 years old, entered the temple, he saw Lord Jagannath, and then he was going to run and embrace him, but he fainted partway there, and you heard the rest. Sarvabhauma happened to be in the temple. So this is his entry into Jagannath Puri for the first time. So we can be meditating on that, how he got to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a plan to change the heart of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, one of the greatest scholars in India, still mentioned If you look him up on Google, he was photographic memory, he knew everything, but he wasn't a devotee at the time. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there and met him, went to his house under these circumstances, and then we'll notice as we read the story later that Sarvabhauma has a change of heart. So we can also have a change of heart no matter what state we're in. It can become melted by the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the process of devotional service. And now we just have a few minutes left before we have announcements, so we'll just take a couple of questions, which are much harder than reflections. Yes, Malini.
Prabhu, when we initially come to Krishna consciousness, there are some devotees who have extreme enthusiasm, and it's a beginner's, excitement, and over a period of time it actually gets moderated. But we also see that there are some devotees who do not have that initial enthusiasm, but they're steady throughout their devotional service. So how do we understand that, Prabhu, that why some devotees have that and why some devotees don't have it? So
it's hard to say in others particularly, but we can look for it in ourselves. That's more helpful and useful. Of course, if we know it in ourselves, why we're enthusiastic or not, then we can also help others as well. One of the ways in which we can become less enthusiastic in any process is by taking it for granted. Because when we do something regularly, there's always a tendency to think that, oh, this is just this. Prabhupada once said that sometimes sadhus who live by the Ganges say, well, it's just the Ganges, I'm going to go somewhere else to take a bath. They forget that it's the water coming from the lotus feet of Krishna. And therefore, it's important for us to not take anything for granted, including the idea that I'm entitled. Entitlement is one of the enemies of enthusiasm and devotion and progressive devotional service, thinking like, I've done my time, therefore I deserve something. We should start over fresh every day, and that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you're having trouble chanting, Durdaivam idrishami hajani nanuragaha, he's saying in the voice of a person who's having trouble chanting, saying, all these things are very nice. I know Krishna's in his name, but I'm cursed. I'm star-crossed. There's Durdaivam. There's somebody's holding me back. I can't do this. I can't chant. I can't feel the nectar of it. So then he gives the remedy. Trinadapi sunichena. Start over. Remember that you're a beginning. Start over every day and say, I don't know anything. What did Rupa Goswami or what did Sanatan say to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he approached him? I know nothing. Everyone says I am very learned, but I'm so foolish that I believe them. So this is one of the important aspects. We can be carried away, says Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Madhurya Kadambini. There's a stage at which we become more advanced, steady in devotional service, and then other people start coming up and saying, wow, you're great, you can control your senses. And then we start to believe them and think like, I got it made. Then we're finished. So never think you've got it made, never take it for granted, and always start over as a beginner every day and say, I'm a lost person, I don't have anything. Be akinchana. That's our defense against that moss growing on us that makes us think that this is just an ordinary process, and I already figured it out. I already did that. That's our enemy. I already know that. Mahatma Prabhu always says, these are the 4 words that destroy all learning. So don't be like that. Take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reminder to start over every day. And then, of course, there are offenses. So Prabhupada says we should keep an eye out for offenses and try to avoid them meticulously. Don't make offenses. And if you make offenses, then counteract them. Kautuk?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the class. I have a question regarding pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see in his lifetime that he married twice and then he accepted sannyas. and we understand that he did it for the benefit of all the people. That's what we understand. And there are many pastimes like Mahabhav, where he's going through different kinds of ecstasies. So how do we understand that a particular pastime is for us to follow and not imitate? Because he has done many things. So just like the ecstasy of Mahabhav, or he has taken sannyas, and he used to play with devotees in the lake, that water sports. So how do we know something is imitation and something is for our instruction?
You can play water sports.
Yeah, I mean to say, do we no?
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just being a little lighthearted.
Some of the instructions seem like counterintuitive. We cannot follow. This is imitation. If we just try to follow, he accepted to.
Well, there's a difference between. Prabhupada points this out in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, who goes off to the forest and he ends up living on air. So Prabhupada says we can't imitate that. There are lots of iconic devotees that we can't imitate. And however, he says we should follow in footsteps. And an example of that in a very practical sense is Prabhupada's point in the Upadeshamrita where he says, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that unless you chant 64 rounds a day, then you're considered fallen. And Prabhupada says, well, in the estimation of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, we're all fallen because we're not chanting 64 rounds. He said, but if you chant 16 rounds and work to expand the Sankirtan movement, he said, then this will please Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. You'll be in line with the parampara. And indeed, if you look at Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's teachings, he considered that those who were engaged 24 hours a day in spreading Krishna consciousness movement were basically chanting 64 rounds. And he didn't necessarily require them to physically sit down and chant 64 rounds. The mood is properly understood and adjusted for us. So 16 rounds, we can do that and spread the Krishna consciousness movement, and all of you, superhuman personalities, can work, raise a family, go to school, chant 16 rounds, and spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Frankly, I don't know how you do it, but Hare Krishna. So that's following in the footsteps. You take it from the parampara, how to do it. If you notice that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has different phases in his life, and that you also have different phases in your life, then you can follow in the footsteps. When a new phase in your life comes up, then you think, how do I adjust this so that I can remain in Krishna consciousness? Because all examples are available. Srila Prabhupada gave examples. Thank you, Ramananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Let's give a hand for Ramananda. Now he probably won't hand me these notes anymore. If we look at Prabhupada's life, we see that he had phases in his life. If we just look at the last section and say, well, I'm going to live like a Paramahamsa in my 20s or 30s, then that's okay. You can do that in a way that you're preparing for that. So there are instructions and there are examples that we can follow to see how to follow in the footsteps of devotees. If you feel like going mad and taking sannyas suddenly, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you might want to ask somebody first and say, is this a good idea? We're in an organization, an institution, where taking sannyas is not so easy nowadays. You'll be on probation for 5 years at least, and then you'll be go to a sannyasi training for 5 years at least, and then when you do take sannyas, you'll be under the care of the sannyas ministry, and they'll ask you to go to Malaysia and here and there and start international travels and things like that. It's a wiser, or I should say the institution and the devotees in it we're learning as we go along how to prepare people for the next phase in life. Earlier on in the wild, wild west, people would come to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I want to take sannyas. And they would hang around till he gave it to them sometimes. And then later it's like, hey, what happened to such and such? Well, we live and learn. So we have to live and learn also. And also look at those who do have enthusiasm over many years and who have sustained what they're doing. The external feature isn't as important as if you notice it somewhere where somebody's able to maintain the process of Krishna consciousness at a high level, an ever-increasing level in enthusiasm. Find out what they're doing. Follow in their footsteps. We have all such examples available. We had one example when we were growing up in the Krishna consciousness movement. Now we have many. So take help from those examples and from the mentorship of those who would give you advice. I know I get lots of free advice myself from God brothers. I could start naming the free advice I got at some point. Okay, somebody else had a question. Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the lecture. So I think a couple of things, we mentioned in the class how, the words we quoted where we should be having one-minded focus and enthusiasm, right? But we also talked about greed. So sometimes, the mindset is like, when you're doing like multiple services, right? Like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, right? But then we also have, some devotees, like, hey, I want to do that service. But we said, no, that's my service, somebody assigned it to me, right? I'm not going to give it to you. How do we ensure that, how do we strike a balance to make sure that the devotees are not offended, but at the same time, keep your greed? So I was a little bit lost there.
Service can always be expanded. And just because you share it with other people doesn't mean you get less service. At least that's the way it should be. When the Panchatattva broke open the storehouse of love of God and ate and distributed its contents, the contents increased. My experience is that in starting any little service that you feel some inspiration for, there's always room for expansion, which means that more people can come in. In fact, that's one of the reasons to expand the service, is to see that other people can come in, like sweeping the floor or washing pots, which I highly recommend cleaning the kitchen and other parts of the temple. And if you can do that and just you start washing pots, and then somebody comes in and says, I want to wash the pots. Say, no, this is only for me. Or you could say, let me show you how to do it, and then you can help do it. So in any department, there are ways in which you can find some kind of engagement for devotees to help it. And look how the Krishna consciousness movement expanded. Prabhupada was one person, and he came here with a big idea, which was to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And then a few people came and said, can we help? And Prabhupada said, yeah, you can help. Just here, staple these together. He gave them actually he didn't even hand them the papers. He said, here's what I want to print. They went and had them Xeroxed. Kids, you've never heard of this before, but there used to be a machine called a Xerox machine. It was actually it would kind of reprint the text. That wasn't Xerox, that was mimeograph. That was what it was called. And they would mimeograph it, and then Prabhupada had them all lining up, all the collating, that is, by hand, and then they'd staple them together. That was the first Back to Godhead magazine in America. They had it laid out on a bench, and there were 11 devotees involved in doing it. So Prabhupada came down to watch them. And Brahmananda told me, he said when Prabhupada brought his books to America, he had them, I always wondered where he kept them, because you come to America with nothing and you got a huge cargo hold of books. Where'd they go? Well, the Scindia Steamship Company had their own storage in New York, and they allotted him free storage there for his books. So as soon as he got established in New York, he went with Gargamuni and Brahmananda down to that storage locker. And Brahmananda told me that Prabhupada sat there in a chair and he, with great delight, watched them tie the books up with string. The modern day stack. Everyone thinks they invented it. No, Prabhupada invented it. It's 3 books in a stack, and they were tying them together. And he said Prabhupada took great delight in watching them tie them together. And if you look at all the services that evolved from the early days, it was Prabhupada's ideas. And then he just engaged more and more devotees. And then they became more engaged, and they engaged other people, and he was overseeing everything. So if you think like that, then you can have your service can be more expansive. In fact, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said for you to do, become a guru. And what is a guru? A guru is somebody who has this unlimited desire to spread Krishna consciousness to others. And what do you have to do that? You need more hands and legs and eyes. Where do you get them? People who come along and say, I want to help. And then you say, okay, you're in. You're part of the team now. And that's what it means to sign up under a guru. You come in and it's like, I want to be under you. Okay, what does that mean? It means you got some service to do. And the guru would say, I've been given too much service. I can't cover it all. Therefore, please help. So you have to do that. Okay? Say yes.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Haribo. Okay, one more question, and then we got to go. Uh-oh. Prabhu?
There's a question on free will. We see 2 schools of thought. One which is that it's all free will, and the other which is there is no free will. For example, there's an addict who is impelled to do indulges in addiction. There's one school which says, he can always stop if he chooses to, and the other says he cannot stop because there's something inside him which is impelling him. So I've been wondering, where is this free will? What is free will and what is not free will?
Is there any middle ground?
That's what.
What would the middle ground be called?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is that the free will was before his addiction, or.
Well, you said that there's a theory that there's no free will and then there's unlimited free will. Isn't there something in the middle of the spectrum?
Maybe there is.
What would you call it if you were going to make a doctrine and teach it all over Silicon Valley? Something like, give it a title. Huh? God's will, limited free will, something like that, right?
Limited free will.
Yeah, so it comes kind of in the middle. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. He says those people who think that they're the doers, exclusively the doers, they're foolish because they don't understand there's a lot more going on. They're just basically desiring, and the material nature is carrying out those things. And in the next verse he says, Tattvavitu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayo gunaguneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. Those who come to knowledge, however, they have more free will because they understand how the world's working and they understand their part in it, their sambandha, their relationship with God, that they're part and parcel, they're servants of God. And the more that one aligns one's senses in service with Krishna, the more free will one gets. So this is mentioned by Krishna. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atmavasharvateyatma prasadam adhigachyati, which means that the more you align your senses in service to Krishna and thereby control them, the more you become free. And what is the next verse? Don't say it because you'll get really hungry when you do. Prasade sarvadhukanam hanirasya pachayate prasana chetaso yashu bhuti pariyavatistate. So then the next verse, after ragadvesha vimuktaistu, which I have just described, then Krishna says, when you get that opening, that grace that comes to you by cooperating with Krishna, then all your misery's gone, and your mind becomes steady, and you become happy. And in the realm of liberated souls. They have freedom to express themselves unlimitedly in devotional service. You know that feeling you get? Like you got so much service, you want to do it all at the same time? It's really hard to do with the material body because you got to sleep and there's always something like, oh, come on, I just want to do this. I just want to hear and chant. I just want to write this thing. I just want to go in Sankirtan. I don't want to stop. I don't want to have to stop washing pots. Do you all like washing pots? Say yes. Okay, we like washing pots. So we don't want to stop, but you have to because there's limitations in the body. So what happens? Krishna will fulfill your desire. He'll give you more and more facility to just do devotional service all the time. You get a spiritual body in your next life. Just as if you want material things, then Krishna says, okay, that's what you want. We'll give you a material body so you can enjoy it. You want to work all day long with no stoppage at your stupid job, okay? Job means just over broke. Yes, you can become an ant, because that's ant philosophy. Have you ever cohorted with ants? You don't hang out with them? Just watch them sometimes. That's all they do is work. And she's like, you guys have a 7-day work week. What's with you people? Snap out of it. Devotees don't have to work at all. Work is a punishment, actually. We're paying off a debt for all the stuff we took from the material world, thinking this is mine, and that's mine, and that's mine, and this is mine, and he's mine, she's mine, and all this is mine. And it's like, okay, you can have it, but you got to pay for it. How? Work hard all the time, like an ant. And when you come to knowledge, then you're not forced. You have free will. You can say, I just want to serve Krishna. Then you're free. Your will, as a living being, you're free to express yourself in devotional service eternally. Nobody's going to come and stop you, ever. And you can continually expand your service to Krishna eternally. That's real freedom and real free will. So the more we come to knowledge while we're in this material world and understand our relationship with our body or our non-relationship, and we understand our relationship to the 3 modes of material nature and to Krishna, then the tattvavit tu mahabaho, you become tattvavit, means you know the categories of energy that you're dealing with. You know everything in its place. That's what tattvavit means. Tu mahabaho guna karma vibhago, you understand how the 3 modes of material nature are working. Then iti matva bhajante mam Buddha. Did I transcribe? I transcribed some verse into that. Transposed. He says, Tattvavitu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayo guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajite. Such a person is no longer bound by this misconception that I'm the body and doesn't and gets freer. It gets freed from that influence of the 3 modes of material nature. Om Tat Sat. We want to thank everybody who joined us today online. Is that Srivas Pandit Prabhu? Wow. We attracted some heavy hitters. A lot of you have your cameras off. I couldn't see you anyway because it's across the room and there's a lot of light on the screen, but I'm feeling your presence. We deeply appreciate it. Let's give everyone online a welcome. Hare Krishna. Haribol. And for everyone who joined us here in the live studio audience, Haribol. Okay. Now we're going to have a couple of brief announcements. So we'll start off with the Bhakti community. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept our most humble obeisances, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. As you know, Bhakti community is a community which prime purpose is to engage newcomers with Vaishnavas so that they can make progress in Bhakti. So whenever you give out books, please do also share Bhakti community with them so that they can be invited to the classes we have where they can discuss and learn the books that they have received. So this week, Bhakti community members visited Sadhu Sangha and they had very good experience. They had all had a very sweet emotional stories to share, and they're very grateful to all the members of Bhakti community who have been encouraging them. And we all felt very inspired. So here are a couple of pictures of members who feel happy. And we all thank all the volunteers who encouraged these newcomers to come to Sadhu Sangha, and also during the entire stay, taking care of them. So that was one. And given that most of the programs were not conducted, given they all were at Sadhu Sangha. Also, I don't know if Prem Rupa Madhu Prabhu and Prem Rupini Madhu Mataji are there, but they had a nice Bhakti Sangha that they conducted within Comunidad Bhakti. Are they there online? No. Okay, so they had a wonderful Sangha where they had Kirtan, Japa, Bhagavad Gita talk, and book table Prasadam. They felt all of them were pretty happy and ecstatic in the association. So thank you, Prabhu and Mataji, for bringing newcomers together and giving your association to them, encouraging them. Next, as you know, we do have a daily mantra meditation circle, which is from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific time, which Bhakti community newcomers join. We are very happy to share that even Comunidad Bhakti have started their own daily mantra meditation circle, which is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Argentina time. So in case, Spanish members who would like to join a mantra meditation, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever, please do let us know, and we'll be happy to share them the details so that they can join and benefit from associating with Prema Rupa Madhav Prabhu and Prema Rupini Madhavi Mataji. So thank you, Prabhu, for making this facility and engaging and encouraging all the newcomers. And lastly, we had our Bhakti Circle program this week where we discussed spiritual evolution. So thanks to all the Bhakti community leaders who helped facilitate discussions as well as answer questions for the newcomers this week. And that's the update from, we do have service opportunities in case you are interested. There are various opportunities available. Please do get in touch with us. That was the update on Bhakti community. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's very satisfying to have that developed aspect of our community, isn't it? So that we know that those who are interested in Krishna consciousness can step in and have a progressive way to make advancement in association of devotees. Bravo, well done, Hare Krishna, sadhu, sadhu. And now we have Malini. Devi Dasi will talk about our Sankirtan. This is a unique opportunity we have in this time and space, camped out here in Silicon Valley. It's one of the better spots for distributing books in the world. And presently, we have freedom of speech. We're lined up and able to unlimitedly expand to the degree that we organize ourselves and have enthusiasm. So taking advantage of this window of opportunity that we have in history, that we're all together here, it's not guaranteed. So we should take advantage of it as much as possible. So let's give a warm welcome to Her Grace, Malini Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking about the Sadhu Sangha still. And the class His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu gave on the second day of the second Bhagavatam class. That was one of the best classes, in my that I heard. One of the prominent points that Prabhu made was that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a gateway to spiritual life, and how we are so lucky to have the literature readily available to us, and the holy name, like Prabhu mentioned, it's like the water in your palm. You can just drink it. And how in the previous ages, even though the knowledge was available, you are not allowed to share with others. That's what Radhikaraman Prabhu made that point. And but now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has deputed everybody. He has given full permission to go and spread this Sankirtan movement all over the world, in every town and village. And Prabhu was mentioning that with this empowerment also comes responsibility. That now that you have the knowledge, you have an ability to give it. So you have to distribute it also. So that's very important. Not that just to keep it ourselves. So by the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have a facility now that we can distribute this knowledge all over the Bay Area, beyond, anywhere in the country, in the world. And we have Bhagavatam sets available. And the German ones, the new Bhagavatam sets. And the goal for our Bhaktivinoda Thakur MSF is very simple. We wanted at least 300 devotees to participate in this marathon. And it's always special for Bhaktivinoda Thakur's MSF because there is some special mercy when you pray to the Thakur. He just somehow makes this service available for everybody. So just come join us. You can participate in many ways. Though we like you to distribute at least one Bhagavatam sets, but if you just try, that counts too. So please do participate. We have many venues available today for book distribution. Western spots, Krishna Prabhu, you can give us an overview, but for other spots for Bhagavatam, we have Cupertino, San Ramon, and we have Fremont. And for Western spots, Prabhu, would you?
Hare Krishna. So for Western Sankirtan, we have multiple festivals happening in San Jose. So one team will be going in San Jose. Another team will be going to Santa Cruz. And there's another festival in Monterey. So we'll try to cover these spots. Please join us if you like. Hare Krishna.
Today we can also try to distribute the full set of Bhagavatam on the table, like open it from the box and stack it up all the way in one or two ways. I was just watching some of the Atlanta Sankirtan Bhagavatam distribution. I see every set they distribute, it's fully open on the table. So maybe we can try, the more we show, the more we sell. So we can try that as well. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Haribo. It might be helpful also to, although we're going to Cupertino and all of those other places where we know there's Indians, for our Core and Explore, 20%, you might look into the African American areas. There's a renaissance in the African American community where they're interested in spiritual knowledge and in particular in Vedic wisdom. And Devavrata Prabhu flew in just to tell us about this. Can we have a microphone to the quadrant 2, please?
So last time I was here, Konta Karnav and I, we went to a Walmart which we thought was going to be really good, and it was all Indians. And no one was taking books from us. And so I called Brigupati Prabhu. He said, you got to find the black Walmarts. And so I said, all right, Konta Karnav, we have to go to Oakland. And he's like, I don't know about this, Prabhu. So we drove to Oakland and we had such a fun time just distributing in a parking lot. And it was, although it's a lower income area, the people are very, very grateful. The security guard in the parking lot gave me like dabs and was like encouraging me to continue on doing what I was doing.
Yeah. It's a really nice experience. We had that also when I was in Florida recently, and we went to an area, it's in the South anyway, so there's more African Americans by history, but they were so nice. I was looking for them because they were the most receptive out of all the people that we met at the what did we call it? The festival we had out in front of this shopping mall. So I highly recommend it. Look for that demographic, and you won't be disappointed. Did you have that good experience there, Kotik? You mean a full set?
Yes, Maharaj. Actually, he was an Indian visiting from Singapore.
I see.
So,
the poor areas, Prabhupada talks about it in the Krishna book. He said they're more open. We had that experience in Colorado where we were going door to door in a very poor area. It was around supper time. We knock on the door and people go, "Come on in, honey." We just walk in, they're all around the table and just go, "How can we help you?" And it's like, we got these books, and it's go, "Okay, put it there. My purse is over on the shelf. You just take it off and take what you need, you know." And then that was the experience we had, going around to all these poor places. And then, interestingly, we moved a few streets down. It was a very wealthy area. And as soon as we got on there was a recording, not a recording, but somebody spoke through their doorbell. "What do you want? What are you doing here? Why are you in this area? Get out of here. Get off my porch," you know. So there was this contrast, and I remembered what Prabhupada said in the Krishna book about that. Please.
Maharaj, actually, the people were very receptive. I know one lady. She said she was looking for it. She was wearing many beads on her wrist, and she took a saptrishi, and she said, "I will read these books." And many receptive people.
When I was in Florida recently in Alachua, I went to the hospital to visit Radhe, and then when we were leaving, there was a woman, African American, and she was standing at the elevator waiting with us, and she looked at us and she goes, "Is that mala? Are you wearing mala?" We said, "Yeah." And she was very interested in Krishna consciousness. Kunja Sevika. Microphone to quadrant number 4, please.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj. There is a new Braj Harikatha festival that's going to take place in, I think, New Braj village. That's in 6 days. Maybe our temple can also distribute some books over there.
Where is New Braj village?
I think it's in Badger, California.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Sri Bhagavat Maharaj is also visiting during this time. There is a program even today.
Well, if one or two devotees had a personal connection with the devotees, because it's a different camp, so to speak, and therefore we'd have to have their permission to go and distribute books there. But if somebody, some senior devotee had that opportunity and they said, "Yes, you can come and sell Bhagavatam sets here," then it may be possible.
Also, Maharaj, sometimes I Uber to work and come back, and I concur with you that the African American, the community, if some driver is driving me, they're very, very open and receptive to hearing any spiritual discourse. So I've had the opportunity to just give a little Bhagavad Gita or something about our temple, and they are very open about that. I've seen that more in that community, yeah.
So could we do that? Just a little investment in that, the 20%, and see how it goes? It's good to have variety anyway. We should investigate the Lord's creation and all the people in it as much as possible. And finally, I would like to know who's been involved in cleaning the kitchen. Any names, identifications? I know we try to protect their identity because they're so humble, they don't want anybody to know. Who's cleaning the kitchen today or regularly? Do you know, Avantika? Somewhat? Okay, give her a microphone. She can appreciate. We're gonna appreciate the devotees who are cleaning, and of course, in another way, they're taking the best service in the temple. So we should be a little greedy and see if we can get some service from them also for cleaning. But cleaning the kitchen, washing pots, cleaning the countertops, making sure that the kitchen is spotless is one of the most important services in our temple, and it's a great service if you can get it. I'm looking into seeing how I can get a spot in the kitchen to clean. I'd like to get in and wash pots whenever I can. So I'm trying to see if I can fit in that schedule. So just watch out for me going down the hallway, because I may push you out of the way. Okay, Avanti could come up here. She knows what's going on in the west wing of the Hare Krishna temple here. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about who are the devotees who are hogging all this service.
Is this for today or in general?
You can say in general, and if there's a today specific, you can say too.
In general, there are so many devotees who are cleaning. Some of the names that I see come up a lot are Tadiya Seva Prabhu, Srinivas Prabhu, Kalyani Mataji, Shama Bhakta Prabhu, Shama Karuna Mataji. They're always cleaning in the kitchen and washing pots.
Sadhu, sadhu.
And there are so many more that are just not coming to my mind right now.
Okay, maybe you can make one of your long lists.
Yes, I will be.
You can add that to the list of all the cooks and everything like, because cooking means cleaning, and the most, I would arguably, it's the most important room in the whole temple, because that's where everyone out of love for Krishna cooks, and then out of love cleans and leaves the place spotless, thinking this will please Krishna and Srimati Radharani. Thank you very much, Avantika, for keeping on top of the West Wing. Hare Krishna. Anyway. Do you have more? Do you want to say more? Okay.
Hare Krishna, today's cook is Koladvip Prana Prabhu.
Haribo! Koladip Prana is not only a great Pandit, a Sankirtan devotee, but he also cooks. He does pujari work. He cleans. He'll do any service. He's very humble and engaged in constant service. He just came out. Maybe he can make an appearance. Koladip Prana. Let's give it up. Right over here, Prabhu. They can't see you on camera over here. Koladip Prana Prabhu, what's it like cooking in the kitchen? What does it feel like cooking in there, and what do you notice about cooking and cleaning?
While cooking, Maharaj, I feel like a lot of anxiety how it will come out. Whether devotees will, whether Radharani and Krishna will accept it or devotees will appreciate it. So that anxiety is there. But it's a nice deal, Maharaj. You keep meditating on the cooking thing whole week long. What you want to cook, how you want to go, for how many people you want to cook, what kind of preparation you want to do, or if there is anyone to help you. Because today there was a special program, was supposed to be happen, but it cancelled at the last moment. So I was thinking what to cook for the kids, because there will be a lot of kids. There was supposed to be a lot of kids here in today's program.
Right.
So that meditation comes or goes through the week, and it helps you to actually concentrate while you're
big planning and thinking ahead and meditating. This is spiritual meditation and spiritual anxiety. Thank you all for all you do here, Koladip Prana. Your presence here gives us all enthusiasm and impetus in devotional service.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So all glories to the cooks and all glories to the cleaners. It's one of the highest services one can take, is cleaning the Lord's kitchen, cleaning the Lord's temple in general. Because we have a community temple also. It doesn't just come down to one person or two people, but we should all think in terms of we're all cleaners. Because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Gundicha temple, he brought all his devotees with him, and he engaged them all in cleaning the temple. And he said, this is tantamount to cleansing your heart. And also, when he saw those who were doing the best, and he could tell by how, if their pile was bigger than others, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pile was bigger than anybody's of straw and dirt, but he'd tell those devotees, you're very good, now you should teach the others how to do it. So anything that you see, ways that you can get into the cleaning service in the temple somewhere, one way or another, there's unlimited places to clean. try to get lined up and don't let these devotees just take all the nectar. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody. Now we're going to have a Guru Puja to worship Srila Prabhupada, who's the first one to start cleaning the temple. Even when guests would come, he would clean the pots himself. He would clean the whole temple before anybody knew any better that actually this is the most nectarian service of cleaning. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vanchakoptaruscha Kripasinnabe Vacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nantakoti Vaishnavini ki jai.
His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Oh. Those mums, they really should. Shall we say this prayer together from Raghunath Das Goswami? Namashrestham manamapi shachi matra surupam sirupam tasyagrajam uruparim matarim goshtavatim radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tandatosmi. He Guru Jnanada Dinabandho Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sina Hitavata Rasita Radha Pranaya Prachara. Hey Dinabandho Karunaika Sindho Kuru Prasada Mayamanda Mudhe Laksha Paradhe Bahupapa Bhagadhe Tatpada Padme Stu Matishta Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Surup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother, Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunds and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I'm a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore, grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. There's flowers to be offered. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Gahati Shadma. Bando Mui Sava Ganamate. Bando Mui Sava Ganamate. Jahar Prasade Bhai He Bhavato Viyaja. Krishna Prapti Hoy Java Hoy Te. Krishna Prapti Hoy Java Hoy Te. vakya chitete kuriya oikya Anakori ho maniyasha Anakori ho maniyasha Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Samagati Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Tamagati Jitvashade Puri Sarvasa Jitvashade Puri Sarvasa Chakudam Dilote Jame Jame Prabhushe Chakudam Dilote Jame Jame Prabhushe Gyan Hire Prakashita Gyan Hire Prakashita Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Adi Jadi Nasa Jate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Adi Jadi Nasa Jate Dire Jai Jahar Charita Dire Jai Jahar Charita Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokana Lokera Jivana Lokana Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Toya De Amore Pada Chaya Ha Prabhu Toya De Amore Pada Chaya Ebe Jasti Shikti Bhuvana Tribhuvana Mahaprabhu Gaura Joya Ke Hamare Pada Chaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatyarishakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Kali Kukuta Jariksha Ohe Kali Yuga Pavana Koli Boya Nashana Shakti Nandana Gaohe Gadadhar Madhan Nitya Pranadan Advaita Prapujita Gaura Vishambar, Srinivas Ishwar, Bhakta Samuva Chitta Chora. Nadiya Shastada Mai Purishwa Nam Pravartana Shura. Vihi Jana Shikshaka Nyasi Kula Nayaka Madhava Radha Baba Pura. Sarvabhuma Shodhana Gajapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Vira. Rupananda Vardhana Sanatana Palana Haridas Modana Tira. Jarak Bhavana Vishamata Shadana Kapatidli Katha Kama. Shira Bhakta Palana Shiksha Jnana Karana Shalabhakti Dushana Rama. Kali Kukurkad Jadi Chao Hey Kali Yuga Pavana Kali Maya Nashana Shishatinana Gao Hey Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Pata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Pata Das Raghunath H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Vandana Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran H.I. Gosai Jarmuitar Das Santabara Parare Mora Panchakras Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivar Janame Janame Hoye Apilas H.I. Gosai Jade Rajya Koilabar Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Madaniyaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Padma Korea Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Naro Damodar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Go Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Go Premanande Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prirajagacharya Stotarishti Shimad Abhay Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prirajagacharya Stotarishti Shimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Nam Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Nam Dintam Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Samveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bo. Any other announcements for today? It's not a fast day, right? Today's prasadam. Let's sing these beautiful prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, glorifying prasadam. Nobody else has this. It's prasadam, a sumptuous foodstuff that helps control the tongue, brings us closer to Krishna. Sharira Vijaja Oma Gyana Timarandasya Sharira Vijaja Jodendriyata Heka Jibe Pele Vishayasa Kare Tarmadhe Divayati Loba Moisu Durmati Taki Jita Katita Samsare Krishna Bhadoya Moy Kori Bari Chukwadai Swaprasad Anna Dilopahar Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Premedako Shri Ekadinasham. Did I miss part? Got it. Dui Prabhu Bojane Botilo Shakori Asradana Prabhu Bole Bhaktagana Eshak Krishna Asradilo Heno Shakashradane Krishna Prema Aishelane Shek Preme Goro Ashradana Jada Buddhi Parihari Prasara Bhojana Kori Hari Hari Bolo Sarvajan Hari Hari Bolo Sarvajan Makshari Govinde Namani Vaishnave Sapa Punya Bhatam Rajam Krishna Sola Jayate Vikare Sarva Sitanam Anirakshyo Pajayate Prasadate Sasoyasu Puspaya Prakishtate Tvayopa Vishto Saskanda Vasavangar Charchitaha Uttishta Bhojino Dasas Davamayam Jaimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprashaliki Marhakiram Matavaravappu Varnayo Karnikaram Vibradvasa Kanaka Kapisham Vaijayantim Shamalam Rang Rang Venur Adara Sudaya Punyan Gopavrindar Vrindaranyam Sapada Ramanam Pravisha Gita Kirti Tavakatam Ritam Sapta Jivanam Kavibiritam Kalmashapaham Shavana Mangalam Srimaratatam Bhuri Grananti Bhuri Dajana Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Kola Vato Jani Brajita Sarvakta Balihamsa Chakra Marupa Sheni Viharaspradam Karnanandika Ravani Rahatume Jiva Marupram Sabhava Vaisesika Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akurastravipandane Katipati Dase Tasakyarjuna Saraswamadivedane Valirabu Krishna Piresham Pada Aradyo Bhagavan Prajesha Tanayas Tadama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachirupasana Vrajavadu Vargena Yakopita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumato Maham Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Makamidam Jagradharana Pradam Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Makamidam Jagradharana Gaur Premanande Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Prasadam for everybody in California. Haribol. If you're in California, you can take prasadam. And everyone take time to stop by the kitchen and appreciate the cooks and the cleaners. Okay? Gurpremanande, Vanchakapavishya, Kripasinabhevacha, Patitanam Pavaribhyo, Vaishnavibhyo, Namo Namaha, Nandakuti Vaishnavin ki jai. Prasadam cooks ki jai, Prasadam cleaners ki jai, Nitai Goda Haribo, 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 Nitai Goda